Good.
Hi, this is
Great.
Kathy from NVTA. I just want to let you know I just started live streaming on YouTube.
Thank you.
And I'll start the recording in a moment.
Okay.
Good.
Hi, this is Kathy from NVTA. I just want to let you know I just started live streaming on YouTube.
Thank you.
And I'll start the recording in a moment.
Okay. All right. Incidentally, this is Cosmo. He may vote for me at one point. I'm not sure, but the NVTA is dog friendly. So there he is.
We love our furry friends.
All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I'm assuming someone will let me know when we can start the tax agency meeting. And it looks like Supervisor Ramos is trying to get moved over.
Chris is in the same boat.
We'll get them moved over just one moment and then we'll have a quorum so we can begin.
All right, Laura, I'll wait for you to tell me we can go and we'll start.
Welcome back, Mayor Sedgley.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be back.
All right.
Always enjoyed NVTA's company.
Congratulations, Scott, on becoming mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. It's a steep learning curve with the other duties that I have assigned. With Napa Sand, which will come later today, Napa Sanitation, back on NVTA. So yeah, it's great.
Chair Pedroza, we are ready.
All right, Laura, thank you very much. I heard a bit of an echo there, so let's just make sure everyone's muted. All right, with that, I'm going to call to order the Napa Valley Transportation Board of Directors Tax Agency to order for Wednesday at 1:32 p.m. If we can do roll call, please.
I can go ahead and run the preamble first.
Oh, thank you very much, Laura. I forgot about the preamble.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar pursuant to the provision of the Governor's Executive Order N2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being webcast on the NVTA website. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available at a later time on the NVTA website. The chair will call upon board members, presenters, staff, and other speakers by name, ask that they speak clearly, and state their names before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers and may be permanently recorded. Board members and members of the public participating on Zoom who wish to speak should use the raise hand feature or star 9 on their phone. Teleconference attendees will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. Phone participants must unmute themselves by pressing star 6. It is requested that public speakers state their name and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received at info@nvta.ca.gov after 5 p.m. yesterday will be entered into the record but not read out loud. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they are free to do so and should raise their hand. The chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Panelists should note that the chat feature is active. However, please be aware that anything typed in the chat will be subject to public disclosure. The chat feature is not active to attendees. In order to get the full Zoom experience, please make sure your application is up to date.
All right, thank you, Laura, for rolling that preamble. Let's move on to roll call, please.
Leon Garcia,
Here.
Mark Joseph,
Here.
Gary Kraus,
Here.
Chris Canning,
Here.
Liz Alicio,
Present.
Scott Sedgley,
Here.
Alfredo Pedroza,
Here.
Elia Ramos,
Here.
Paul Doring,
Here.
Jeff Ellsworth,
Here.
Carrie Dorman,
Here.
and Jen Dunbar.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Laura, and welcome Mayor Sedgley to such a distinguished group. Why don't you do us the honor of leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance on such a proud day? Mayor Sedgley.
I'd be honored. Thank you, Chair Pedroza. If you'll please stand if you can. And if you can mute, I will do the pledge and you can listen, or we can all join you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor Sedgley. Proud day for our nation. So let's move on to the adoption of the agenda. I will entertain a motion if there are no changes to the agenda for the tax agency.
So moved. Canning.
First by Canning.
Second, Garcia.
I heard two voices
Aye.
at one time. Was
Go ahead,
that
Mark.
Joseph?
Yeah, Leon and I tied. I'll take
all
it
right.
this time. He can have the next
All right,
one.
we'll give the tiebreaker to Director Joseph. So roll call vote, please.
Chair Alfredo, or Pedroza, I believe that we are pulling item number 9.1, right?
Okay, yeah. So let me, we have a motion on the floor. If we are going to be asking for a continuance on the regular item 9.1.
I will be asking for that, Chair. This is Belia Ramos. I'll be asking for a continuance of 9.1.
Okay, and I know staff is supportive of that as well. So I'm going to ask the makers of the motion if your motion would reflect that continuance of item 9.1. Member Canning.
So be it.
All right.
Chair Pedroza, this is Dunbar. Could I just ask the reason for the continuance, please?
Yes, if staff can provide, or Member Ramos, go ahead.
The county is not in an agreement at this time with this, the proposal as is written. NVTA staff and county staff will be working together to bring a revision of this item. There is not an urgency to the timing of this item at this time. And so for that reason, because the county is not in agreement with this amendment, we are asking for a continuance.
Thank you.
And what I would add, there is a scheduled meeting for next week with NVTA staff and county staff. We feel optimistic that we can come together on agreement. So sounds like the makers of the motion take that amendment.
Aye.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, anything else to add on your part? All right,
No.
let's do roll call vote, please, for the adoption of the agenda.
Leon Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Joseph,
Yes.
Chris Canning,
Yes.
Gary Kraus,
Yes.
Liz Alicio,
Aye.
Scott Sedgley,
Yes.
Alfredo Pedroza,
Yes.
Belia Ramos,
Yes.
Paul Doring,
Yes.
Jeff Ellsworth,
Yes.
Carrie Dorman, John Dunbar.
Yes.
Yes, sorry. I'm here, Laura. Sorry.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And yes, yeah.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, board. Moving on to public comment. This is the time when the public can address the tax agency on any item that's not on today's agenda. Laura, do we have any public comment?
None noted.
All right, and we're going to defer board member MTC and ABAG update to the normal meeting. Do we have a director's update? All right, we do not. Let's move on to consent items. We have a few items on consent. Laura, do we have any public comment on our consent items for the tax agency? All right. Any comments, questions from board members? If not, I will entertain a motion on consent items 8.1 through 8.3.
So moved, Garcia.
First by Garcia,
Second.
second by Kraus. All right, we have first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Leon Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Joseph,
Yes.
Chris Canning,
Yes.
Gary Kraus,
Yes.
Liz Alicio,
Aye.
Scott Sedgley,
Yes.
Alfredo Pedroza,
Yes.
Belia Ramos,
Yes.
Paul Doring,
Yes.
Jeff Ellsworth,
Yes.
Carrie Dorman,
Yes.
John Dunbar.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Laura. All right, we did continue item 9.1 under regular items. We have no future agenda items. Hearing no directors. Seeing no further business before the tax agency, we're going to adjourn to our next regular meeting Wednesday, February 17th at 2 p.m. And congratulations, Laura, to being under control for your first meeting. Well done.
Thank you.
And Laura, I'll wait for you to let us know we can call to order the Napa Valley Board of Directors.
Okay, we are ready.
All right, I'm going to call to order the Napa Valley Transportation Authority for Wednesday, January 20th at 1:40 p.m. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance in the previous tax agency meeting. Thank you to Member Sedgley for doing that. If we can do roll call, please.
I can confirm all roll call attendance is presented at the NVTA-TA meeting with no absences.
All right, thank you, Laura. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. And there are no changes on this agenda. All right, we have a first by Kraus.
Second.
Second. Go ahead.
Sedgley, second.
All right, first by Kraus, second by Sedgley. Roll call vote, please.
Leon Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Joseph,
Yes.
Chris Canning,
Yes.
Gary Kraus,
Yes.
Liz Alicio,
Aye.
Scott Sedgley,
Yes.
Alfredo Pedroza,
Yes.
Belia Ramos,
Yes.
Paul Doring,
Yes.
Jeff Ellsworth,
Yes.
Carrie Dorman,
Yes.
John Dunbar.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you, Laura. Moving on to public comment. This is a time when anyone can address the board on any item that's not on today's agenda. Do we have any members of the public that wish to address the board?
I am not seeing any at this time.
All right. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to item 6 under agenda. This is chairpersons, board members, MTC, and ABAC reports. I'm going to change it up. I'm going to ask our representatives from ABAC to give us their update, please.
Chair, we meet tomorrow evening as the executive board to accept the recommendation from the regional planning committee on the arena allocation process. So we have no update until the next meeting.
All right. Thank you very much. Member Garcia, any updates on your side?
No, Director Ramos covered it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to that next time.
Thank you for your advocacy on that important front. So I will provide an MTC update. The Blue Ribbon Task Force continues to meet. As many of you might know, we have scheduled a meeting for January 28th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. with the smaller transit agencies. I will be participating in that along with Vice Chair Alessio. And again, just as a refresher, the Blue Ribbon Committee did come together to look at the recovery effort from a transportation perspective, acknowledging that the Bay Area systems are severely impacted by COVID, but it also presented us an opportunity to look at recovering in a different way, being mindful of equity, being mindful of those transit-dependent riders versus choice riders. And it's a very exciting time. There's some discussions about a network planner, and the essence behind that is looking at better coordination, integration of different systems in the Bay Area. We are also looking at potentially supporting mergers and consolidations in areas where those areas want those consolidations, not really prescribing it, but really encouraging that if that is a need at the local level. Also, the Surface Transportation Quick Strike funds in Napa Forward. MTC has $50 million from this fund. $5 million would be set aside for the Blue Ribbon Task Force, and the balance is going to be distributed to the 9 Bay Area counties. And we've been working with Executive Director Miller on making sure Napa County is fairly represented in our requests. And we are working on some creative programs to really look at traffic relief. So MTC has set aside $1 million for Napa, but we're also working on some improvements along Highway 29. And this came about from MTC. As many of you know, we are working on some mobility programs looking at the private sector engagement. And from that resulted additional resources from MTC. So we're looking at the feasibility of roundabouts on Highway 29 at the intersection of Rutherford Crossroad and Highway 29, and also at the intersection of Highway 29 and Oakville Crossroad. At the same time, we've also expanded the scope to look at the intersection of Madison and Yountville and Highway 29. Again, we're in a privileged position to have the attention of MTC and also potentially leverage more resources to Napa County. And I also thank Director Miller for being intimately involved with MTC and making sure that we continue to get more resources. Again, these projects we've identified as quick strike. We're working with those private property owners that might be impacted by these potential roundabouts, but it's really exciting that we might have additional resources for Napa County along that front. So that is my report. Any questions from directors regarding the MTC update or ABAG update? I'm seeing if any directors have raised their hands. Seeing none. All right. We're going to move on to director's update. Director Miller.
Thank you, Chair Pedrosa. Happy New Year, everyone. It's hard to believe that we're in a new year with all these things that are happening in this 20 short days between the first and now. But anyway, I feel like we're on it for a marathon. So the first item on the my report is to announce that Rebecca Shank, who you all know, has been promoted to the transit manager effective January 9th. I was thrilled when Rebecca indicated an interest in filling that position. So congratulations, Rebecca. She will continue her role managing the Vine Trail project through pre-construction phases. She asked to do that. So that's good because there's a lot of complexities and things, and it's good that Rebecca will stay on to help move that project along. So again, Rebecca, congrats. In prior meetings, we've provided the board an update on Caltrans' new initiative, which was to set aside $100 million in SHOP funds for active transportation, complete street improvements on highways, on state highways that serve as main streets. And District 4 had prioritized Imola, which is a highway between Soskull and Golden Gate, and following a joint effort with them on the Imola complete street plan. And I'm happy to announce that we will get about $5 million to make improvements, and that will be a big step forward. The total plan has $14 million in improvements on it, but $5 million will get us a long way. So I really appreciate that. And I'm sure Kelly may have an update when she gives you her update on Caltrans. So I also wanted to acknowledge Diana Meehan, who not only led the planning effort, but was really an advocate and working with Caltrans District 4 to get this money. So thanks, Diana, and well done. Last night, the City of American Canyon, who is supplying the water for the new Vine maintenance facility on Sheehy Court, agreed to waive its roughly $150,000 water capacity fee. So I just wanted to acknowledge the partnership that American Canyon has extended, and just, you know, Jason Hawley, the city manager, has been great. And I just really appreciate the council's support in approving that. Another piece of good news is all good news day. On January 15th, Caltrans cleared the NEPA categorical exclusion for the Calistoga to St. Helena segment of the Vine Trail. So just one more thing to check off as we're moving towards getting that project out to bid. You'll get a more extensive update next month when Sanjay provides you with a project update on all of the projects we're working on. But the project now is on target to issue the request for bid in April, and hopefully we'll be able to award it in 2020, summer 2021. So that's big news as well. Also, I included in your packet a letter signed by Chair Pedrosa expressing NVTA and its member agencies' interest in seeking an award to fund participation in a series of speed management training workshops. So hopefully we will get support for doing that. You know, we're 7th in the state for fatal crashes. And I think that your public works team, all of them were really supportive of moving forward with this. So I think it'll make a great partnership and really hopefully make some big safety improvements in the county. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Miller. Any questions for Kate on her report? Seeing no questions, we're going to move on to Caltrans update.
Good afternoon. Yes.
Good afternoon, Kelly. Go ahead.
All right. Happy New Year. Thank you for providing us time to provide a report. So I just have a 3 quick report instead of going through the list of projects, because we do have a presentation. So the last time when we met was in November, and there were due to some technical difficulties. So we're going to continue that. So the first is in the month of December, we had a public meeting for Rich Creek project as we released a draft environmental document. That was held in December 15th, went very well. And at the November meeting, we also had the traffic detour for the State Route 128 Capel Bridge replacement. So, you know, we allowed it for about 4 days, but it was able to complete in 3 months. So those are both have been completed. And third thing that I was going to report to was just piggyback as to Executive Director Kate Miller has mentioned. Yes, as a part of our commitment for the complete street component, we'll be receiving about 4.5 million, close to 5 million of the complete street funds, right, to address the Imora corridor complete street work. So this has been a very close coordination with NVTA, and this is actually will be added to the recently adopted shop CAPM project on State Route 121. So look forward to working even more closer with the NVTA this coming year, and our commitment from the Caltrans and Director Pedrosa. So any work that sounds like anticipated with NTC, you know, will be also be the help that the Caltrans can provide. We're also willing to assist in any way. And lastly, I'd like to introduce Byron Lin. He's a senior transportation engineer or project manager with Napa County, as well as all directors order in District 4. So he's going to give us an update on the director's order related to the Napa County. So Byron, are you there?
Yes. Hello, Kelly.
Go ahead, Byron.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kelly. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Byron. Go ahead. Can you hear us? Byron, are you still there? Kelly, we can see you and hear you.
Yeah, but I think somehow, Byron, do you wanna? We heard them a minute ago.
Yeah, we did.
So,
do you want to go through? Let's see. Laura, is Byron still connected online?
He is still connected.
Okay.
Can you unmute him?
He's not on mute. Byron, can you hear us?
Kelly, do you want to try giving him a call to see if he can jump on, or or
Yeah,
reconnect,
so-
or can you work through these slides?
So I'd like to actually give him an opportunity. So what I could do is, would you like to move on to next one? Maybe we come back?
We can, do you have time to, we can come back to you towards the end of the agenda, if that's better for you.
Okay, or maybe we could come back next month. So let me give him a call. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Chair Pedrosa, is Dunbar. It seemed that we lost him when he shared the screen, because we had him until he shared the screen. I don't know if that had something to do with it.
Yeah, he's still on. So, thank you, Mayor Dunbar, for that. So, Kelly, it seems he's having connection issues. So, we'll continue through the agenda. If you have time, we definitely want to hear the presentation. So we'll try to, if you can hold on, fit you in. We don't have a very full agenda today, so maybe you all can join us towards the end. Would that work, Kelly?
Yeah, let me give Byron a call, and then I could send the information through the chat. Thank you.
Okay.
And Kelly, I'm happy to screen share his presentation. If he would just like to let me know when to skip to the next slide, we can try that to see if that works better for him technically wise.
Oh, I see. Yeah, maybe that might work. Okay, yeah, all right.
All right, so Kelly, are you going to give? Okay, so let's jump back to our agenda, and then we'll come back to them if we establish a better connection. So let's move on to our consent items. We have 9.1 through 9.7. Laura, do we have any public comment on our consent calendar?
We do not.
All right. Any comments on our consent calendar from the board? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Joseph, I'll move.
Garcia, second.
All right, American Cane is in the house. So first by Joseph, second by Garcia. Roll call vote, please.
Leon Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Joseph,
Yes.
Chris Canning,
Yes.
Gary Kraus,
Yes.
Liz Alicio,
Aye.
Scott Sedgley,
Yes.
Alfredo Pedrosa,
Yes.
Belia Ramos,
Yes.
Paul Doring,
Yes.
Jeff Ellsworth,
Yes.
Carrie Dorman,
Yes.
John Dunbar.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you, Laura. Moving on to our regular items. Our first item is 10.1, the Blue Ribbon Task Force. This is found on page 103 to 109 for members of the public. This is an informational item only. I believe Director Miller is going to kick it off.
Hi, I wanted to just provide an overview, all at the request of Chair Pedrosa, to on the Blue Ribbon Task Force. He did allude to some of the activities the Blue Ribbon Task Force is working on. In your packet, your handout packet, there at the very last page, there is an attachment that was supposed to be attached to the letter from Scott Haggerty, which is part of the agenda. So if when you read Scott Haggerty's letter and you're wondering where the attachment is, it came later, and so that's where it is. It basically provides a summary of some of the activities that the task force has been working on. So this is to just provide you an update, and the task force is comprised of 34 public and private members, including NVTA Chair and MTC Vice Chair, Alfredo Pedrosa. The task force is chaired by Jim Spearing, who is a Solano County Supervisor and MTC Commissioner. The task force was convened in response to the transit crisis brought on by the coronavirus pandemic. However, its scope reaches beyond the response, and we'll also be looking at some historical route issues with Bay Area transit system to improve the experience of the rider, to seek funding efficiencies, and to ensure that the Bay Area's transit system is sustainable both now as we navigate these challenging times, but also in the future. So specifically, the task force mission is threefold: oversee the distribution of the first stimulus bill, the CARES Act, which is completed, create the safety plan to protect the health of transit riders and workers, which you endorse as part of a resolution you adopted a couple months ago, and identify ways to improve the region's transit system to ensure sustainability and system equity. Staff has participated in a number of staff level working groups, and there are many interests between the people that are on this committee, primarily to ensure system equity, and providing mobility to the region's most vulnerable populations. But there are 3 other pursuits that seem to be emerging from the discussions. And this is sort of reading between the lines, nothing that's been sort of out and discussed, but also it's kind of historical in terms of what interests have been articulated in the past. So first, there are state elected and appointed officials, including Assemblymember Chu from San Francisco. Senator Chu has been working, or Assemblymember Chu has been working with an organization called Seamless Bay Area. They had been working on a sales tax initiative prior to this, along with SPUR and a few other advocacy organizations in the Bay Area Council. Assemblymember Chu introduced legislation last year prior to the pandemic that would have mandated certain structures to be put in place to improve the Bay Area transit service. So it's hoped that the outcome of the work of the task force, we can avoid legislative oversight, which sometimes, as you know, creates unforeseen complexities. So second, there are 8 MTC commissioners and the MTC's executive director on the task force. Some of the commissioners are interested in identifying efficiencies in addition to operational improvements that could also include consolidating certain transit systems. There are also 9 transit general managers, all of the large systems, plus 3 of the general managers from representing small systems, and the Bay Area County Transportation Agency chair, the past chair, Daryl Hall, sits on it. I would say that the general managers acknowledge there could be additional efficiencies and improved system coordination, but they are also really focused on a number of efforts that are already underway and have been prior to the convening the task force. And that includes Clipper, which is a common fare media card that all transit systems use. It also includes wayfinding and mapping efforts to improve coordination and make the system seem seamless to other people than the transit planners, coordinating schedules better, connected mobility, and fare coordination. NVTA staff participates in all these efforts. We also participate in the North Bay transportation officials meeting, which is sort of not on the radar because it's not an MTC committee. It's something that NVTA started when I started working here. And it's pretty strong. We meet 3 times a year. And I think it's really helpful for all 4 counties to talk about transit coordination and other transportation issues. Finally, there are a number of advocacy organizations that I mentioned that sit on the committee, including members from Transform, Seamless Bay Area, the business community, including the Bay Area Council, Silicon Valley Leadership Group, and they would like to see more connected and functioning system. But the group is largely in the Central Bay Area and the South Bay, and are really focused in concentrating both resources and improving the system there, which makes some of the small operators in the suburban and rural areas a little nervous, but we're working through that, and I think everybody really just wants a better system. So there are also 2 Blue Ribbon Task Force ad hoc groups that have formed, in addition to other staff level meetings, and the small general managers meet every Tuesday to talk about some of the issues. And then there's a planning group and a finance group, all staff level. But the ad hoc groups include the problem statement group, whose purpose is to distill the issues in a problem statement, and so that it gives us sort of the impetus of what we're working towards. And then there's also the Network Management Alternatives ad hoc group. And this body, this is to understand what body or individual, what role that body or individual should have overseeing the Bay Area transit system. And so we'll continue to give you an update. I know that Alfred, our Chair Pedroza, is very focused on this group and is an active participant in all the discussions. So between the 2 of us, I'm sure that you will get regular updates, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Director Miller. Very comprehensive report of everything happening. So thank you. I'm going to see if we have any questions from directors. I'm not seeing any hands raised. Laura, do we have any members of the public that wish to comment on the Blue Ribbon Task Force update?
I do not see any, no.
All Right. Well, I'll just say this is an incredible opportunity to be engaged as a smaller county, but being mindful that we need to think locally, but also act regionally, vice versa. But we know the challenges of COVID-19, and we do need to come out a stronger barrier, a stronger transportation system, and that's the goal. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. So Director Miller, thank you for your update. Let's move on to our next item. This is 10.2. This is authorization to purchase a new bus stop shelter for the Tulare Manufacturing Company. This is found on page 110 to 128. Rebecca's going to be leading us through this presentation.
Good afternoon. I apologize for the typo. That this is Libby Payne, and I'll actually present. But yes, hi.
Welcome, Libby.
Thank you. Happy to be here virtually. As you may recall, I was introduced back in the November meeting, so maybe some of you don't recognize my face, but I'm the new transit planner at NVTA. The item before you today is approving the purchase of 15 new bus shelters in an amount not to exceed $113,621 using Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities grant funding, which I will now refer to for the rest of this as ASIC. Satellite Affordable Housing Associates were awarded ASIC funding in July of 2019 to construct the Manzanita Family Apartments located on 2951 Sosco Avenue in the city of Napa, not too far from the Nob Hill Shopping Center. The project is 100% affordable family rental housing consisting of approximately 51 apartments. The current project completion date estimate is November of this year. A portion of this ASIC grant is dedicated to transit improvements, including the purchase of 15 new bus shelters to 4 different bus stops along regional routes 10 and 11 in both the cities of Napa and American Canyon. This is grant funding that's not a typical transit funding source, but NVTA wanted to work with our local housing partners in the city of Napa to ensure that this much needed affordable housing project comes into fruition. The cost of these 15 bus shelters is 100% funded by the ASIC grant, so there's no direct cost to NVTA. If the board approves this purchase order today, we will then execute the purchase order. The shelters will arrive in about 12 weeks. So we are looking at all of them being installed by about late spring and early summer. So that concludes my super brief report, but I'd be happy to pause here and take any questions you may have.
Libby, welcome, and thank you for making that super efficient. Any questions from directors at this point in time? I do see one hand raised. Director Joseph, go ahead.
Just trying to do the math in my head. We're getting 15 shelters for 4 spots. Can you explain the allocation? Because that seems like too many. So,
right. Some are on different sides of the street.
Right.
As well, and some are multiple shelters. And if you're curious what they'll look like, they're actually going to look like what the shelters look like right now at the transit center.
Okay, so there really are just the 4 sites, and we're averaging 3 or 4 shelters per site.
That's my understanding.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you, Director Joseph. Director Doring.
Thank you. Can somebody speak to the issue of the advertising? Will there be advertising on these bus shelters, and how does that work in terms of who gets the proceeds from the advertising? I'm not a big fan of advertising, but if it helps our transportation resources, maybe that's a good thing to do.
Sure, I can respond to that. We have a contract with an advertising firm, and all of our shelters and the exterior of our buses are sort of their real estate, and we get all of the revenues for based on the agreement from those ads. Not all of them. We get a subset of it.
Great. Thank you, Director Doring.
Thank you.
Any other questions from Director Dunbar? Go ahead.
Yes. So Libby, the reason for the locations is because you've analyzed that those routes are supporting the affordable housing project. Is that the connection?
Yes, so these routes provide regional connectivity, our routes 10 and 11, as opposed to just within the local area. So this will provide connections to jobs and recreational activity as far south as this would be to the Vallejo Ferry Terminal, and as far north as Calistoga. Wanted the residents to have connections all throughout the valley.
But yes, but it made sense to do the shelters in American Canyon and Napa because of the proximity to the housing development, or because we need to add shelters along those routes anyway, and this is a funding source to make them free to the agency? You know?
It's a bit of both.
Okay.
So the routes will operate the same way that the 10 and the 11 do. So that means that it will go basically from Calistoga, or I think we're not going to re-implement the 10X, but the 11X will go from the Redwood Park and Ride through American Canyon. So anything along there would, in theory, support the people who are transit dependent in the affordable housing facility. And so that was the idea.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that there was a nexus there and not arbitrary, that we're just filling it in with grant funding that needs to be associated with that project. And it sounds like you've just clarified that. So that makes sense.
Thank you, Director Dunbar. Seeing no further questions, Laura, do we have any members of the public?
We do not.
All right, I will just say I think it's critical that we make these infrastructure investments to incentivize transit. So I think this is a great action. So at this point, I will entertain a motion for approval.
Dunbar moves the staff recommendation.
All right, first by Director Dunbar.
Second, Ellsworth.
Second by Director Ellsworth. Roll call vote, please.
Leon Garcia,
Yes.
Mark Joseph,
Yes.
Chris Canning,
Yes.
Gary Kraus,
Yes.
Liz Alicio,
Aye.
Scott Sedgley,
Yes.
Alfredo Pedroza,
Yes.
Delia Ramos,
Yes.
Paul Doring,
Yes.
Jeff Ellsworth,
Yes.
Carrie Dorman,
Yes.
John Dunbar.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Laura. All right, let's move on to our next item, 10.3. This is a federal and state legislative update. This is found on page 129 to 146. Director Miller.
So let me start out with President Joe Biden has nominated Mayor Pete as the next transportation secretary. And on Monday, he announced that he is nominating Polly Trottenberg to fill the Deputy Secretary of Transportation spot. Ms. Trottenberg has served in the Obama administration, I believe, or the Clinton administration, and has lots of experience, as she is the former NYC DOT chief as well. And hot off the press yesterday, Fernandez, the general manager of the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority, tendered her resignation to the VTA, and she is going to be nominated by the Biden administration, hasn't even happened yet, to serve as the FTA administrator. So we're thrilled about that connection. Congress passed and former President Trump signed into the law a Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, also known as the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, that's quite a mouthful, of 2021, or for short, we're calling it CRRSA, C-R-R-S-A-A. So the combined 2021 appropriations and economic stimulus bill is a $2.3 trillion spending package, of which $14 billion is directed to public transit agencies and $1 billion to Amtrak. The relief for transit agencies will be distributed through urbanized area and non-urbanized area formula funds, similar to the past. However, it is also limited to those urbanized areas where the CARES Act did not meet or exceed 75% of an urbanized areas, or non-urbanized areas 125% of the 2018 operating costs. So, in addition to the urbanized areas are capped at a maximum of $4 billion total between those two stimulus bills. So the Bay Area is going to receive about $980 million. And while some of the funds will come to NVTA, we hope, on non-urbanized area formula, the bulk of the revenues will go through the urbanized area formula. And only 3 urbanized areas did not meet that 75% threshold. So we have 12 urbanized areas in the Bay Area, and the 3 that will meet it are San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, and Santa Rosa. So those 3 urbanized areas are going to get all $980 million. The weird thing about that is that the Napa urbanized area received $7.8 million in the CARES Act, but the Vine only got about $4.1 million of that. So in fact, we didn't actually meet our 75% budget threshold, and MTC took the balance for their operating expenses. And I would just say that the MTC staff are working with us to try to figure out how we can sort of be made whole and to address our looming 2022 budget shortfall. Otherwise, we're going to have to cut some projects, and hopefully we won't have to cut additional service, but we may have to do that as well. So it seems to be promising. I just don't know how much they're going to give us, and we'll continue to update you on that. As part of the bill, there is $10 billion of highway infrastructure programs, and we don't know how that's going to flow yet. So we're waiting to hear, and we will keep you up to date on that. There's also $2 billion in general fund monies for highway infrastructure, and additional $1 billion committed to the Better Utilizing Investment to Leverage Development program. So depending on the grant cycle on that, we will probably pursue some of that money. That's competitive funds. It won't come on formula. No direct aid was given to local government, but hopefully the next stimulus bill will. But the bill did include $54 billion for K through 12 school and $23 billion for higher education. So on the state side, and was anybody have any question about the federal update? Okay.
Any questions from directors? Seeing none, Kate, go ahead.
Yeah, so the state update, all 4 legislative leaders are continuing in their post. Senator Bell, which as you know, termed out, he was the chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, and he's being replaced by Senator Lena Gonzalez from Long Beach. So it'll be interesting to see. She's a real advocate of active transportation, so that could bode well for Napa. Bay Area members that will serve on the Transportation Committee include Senators Bob Wachowski from Fremont, Nancy Skinner from Alameda County, Mike McGuire from the North Coast, starting from Marin to Del Norte County, Bill Dodd, I think you know where his district is, and Dave Cortese, who's from Santa Clara, a newly elected former MTC commissioner, and Josh Becker, who represents the peninsula. The Assembly Committee on Transportation has been replaced by Assemblywoman Laura Friedman. She is from LA and Burbank. Bay Area members that are appointed to the Transportation Committee include Assembly members Buffy Wicks from Oakland, Alex Lee from San Jose, Ash Kalra from San Jose, and Mark Berman from the Peninsula. So we're very well represented on those committees, and I think it's going to be exciting the upcoming year. There's always an interest in funding infrastructure when there's an economic challenge. So stay tuned, and we'll continue to keep you up to date. The legislative report includes a sampling of bills, but we're not asking you to act on them. We will bring those back to you more comprehensive when we get closer to when the bill introduction deadline is. I would just add that we had hoped to sponsor a couple of bills this year, one for tolling on State Route 37, and we are going to meet with Senator Dodd on his interest there. And then also, you might recall that Assembly Member Agua Curry was sponsoring a bill for us last year to redirect proceeds from sales of the excess parcel at Soskel Junction, and then have those funds be redirected in coordination with Caltrans on highway improvements in Napa. But the limit this year is 12 bills per legislator. So we're not going to move forward with that bill at all. And we'll keep you up to date on State Route 37 tolling efforts. Let's see. Attachment 2 provides a comprehensive overview of the governor's 2021-22 budget proposal. It includes $227 billion in spending. The package includes an action package to safely reopen schools and accelerate economic recovery. And that package is $6 billion in new money. On the transportation side, good news, even though we've got kind of a wobbly economy, is that SB1 really is doing its job in stabilizing a lot of the funds that come to us for transportation improvements. That said, the fuel prices and fuel consumption is way down. So things like our state transit assistance that we rely on heavily for funding our operations and capital projects is likely to be pretty far off this year because of the its revenues generated from sales tax on diesel. So stay tuned. We don't know what it is. We usually get about $3 to $4 million, and we are anticipating we'll get less. Cap and trade auction proceeds are estimated to exceed $2.25 billion, and there's information in the package on how that's going to be distributed. There's 3 fund sources that we are eligible to receive. One of them comes in on formula, that's $100 million in low carbon transit operations, and we're expecting to see about 50% of what our normal generation is. So that's not good news. There's also $200 million in transit and intercity rail capital program funds and $350 million in low carbon transportation funds. So those other 2 fund sources are competitive. We periodically apply for them specifically for our zero emission fleet, replacing our diesel fleet with electric buses. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Director Miller. Comprehensive overview. Any questions from directors? Seeing no questions, do we have any members of the public that wish to comment on this item, Laura?
We do not.
All right, this was just an informational item. There was no action requested, so thank you very much, Director Miller. At this time, I'm going to go back to our Caltrans update. Is Kelly or Byron, are they up and running?
They are both here. Byron is unmuted. Byron, I'll go ahead and screen share your presentation.
Okay, let's see if the third try is a charm.
We're not going to jinx you, Byron. So go ahead. Your presentation's up.
Okay. So the next slide, please. So yeah, this is the overview of the 7 directors order that are in the Napa County for.
Byron, I think we lost you again.
All right. It looks like he's having audio issues. So Kelly, why don't we agendize this for our next board meeting, and whatever we can do to assist the troubleshooting, let us know. But it seems like it's Byron's having connection issues on his side.
We'll do a rehearsal offline before the next board meeting.
All right. Thank you, Director Miller, for arranging that.
Kelly, if Byron would like, he can always call in as well on the phone if it's a computer connection.
Oh, yes. Oh, we heard them just now. Go ahead, Kelly.
You can always read in writing.
Okay.
Byron, we're good. Can you hear? Byron?
Yeah, for some reason it kept muting. I don't know why.
Okay. Let's give it a try one more time. Go ahead.
Okay. So 7 projects, 4 is ongoing, 3 is accepted for $22.7 million. The first 2 project is it's to remove the trees and the PSPS events. An update on the first one is that about $5.8 million has been completed, and we are asking for additional fundings to complete that work. We've identified about 1,900 trees that needs to be removed in that various location of Napa County. The second one for $2.4 million, that's for the PSPS events. We completed majority of the work. The only one that is remaining is.
Byron, you might have muted yourself again. But Byron, can you hear us? All right, I'm going to ask one more time, Byron. If not, we're going to have to come back to this at another time when we have better audio. So, Kelly and Byron, we're going to move on to our agenda. And again, if we can do something offline at next time, just so we can ensure there's a sustainable audio stream. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. So we're going to go. We have no any future agenda items from the board? Seeing none, before we adjourn, I will just say, I think we're all inspired by different actions, but something I heard today was very inspiring of unity is our path forward. And that can mean something different to all of us, but I think it's something that has served us well in Napa County when we work together. And I think this body, this regional body, is an example of us working together. And I think we're going to continue to rely on that unity to deliver good things for Napa County. So with that, seeing no further business before the board, we're going to adjourn to our next meeting, February 17th at 1:30 a.m. Meeting adjourned, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you, Alfredo. Thanks, Kate. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.